All right. So the first question we have here is asking us that this policy document says that a concern can be categorized as a formal complaint depending on what exactly. So the question in very simple language is asking me, when can you categorize a concern as a formal complaint? So this is what I would like to know. When can I do this, right? So when I read the paragraph, what do I have here? First of all, this is a procedure for complaints and concerns from a policy document. Then, often the person who is actually raising the concern or complaint is the one who says that, I want my concern to be addressed as formal complaint. Don't just take it lightly and call it a concern, make it a formal complaint. That's what the person who's making the complaint wants. However, when we listen to the person or read their correspondence, it might become apparent. Apparent means it might become clear. This vocabulary word is used in your OET reading a lot of the time, so you should be aware of it. So it may become clear that the most appropriate way or the most suitable method, basically, of assisting the person who's making the complaint, is not by following the formal complaints route. So my question wants to know, when can I call a concern a formal complaint? Here, up until now, they have told me the person who's making the complaint may wish to have their concern or complaint addressed as formal complaint, but they have not told me that this is acceptable or not. Then they've told me the way to resolve that might depend on might not follow the actual formal complaints route, but so far it hasn't really answered my question, so it doesn't really make sense to me. It is therefore not always the complexity or severity of a concern or complaint. That means it does not matter how severe, how difficult, how problematic your concern or complaint is, but rather what defines whether it is a concern or complaint. Okay, so from here, they have told me what cannot very, very clearly be used as an answer here. Very clearly, they've told me that if you are thinking that, oh, the complexity or the severity of a concern or complaint is going to make it a formal complaint, that is not true. So that's good. So I already know what I can eliminate. It is the most appropriate method of resolution. It is the most appropriate method of resolution that may be the influencing factor. So influencing factor means something that can have effect on another person, another substance, another thing, right? That's what we call influence. Because I'm not trying to speak Hindi in the videos, so I cannot explain it as well, the meaning of an English word in an English word, right? But what I'm trying to say is that this is the one which actually makes your concern makes your concern or a complaint in a formal complaint. It is not the severity. They have very clearly told me it is not the severity, but rather the most appropriate method of resolution that may be the influencing factor. Now, in these circumstances, when something like this happens, a member of the this and that team should contact the complainant. Complainant is the person who's making the complaint. You should be aware of this. Who's making the complaint? So if I'm the one going to the teacher and this person is bothering me, then I am the complainant to discuss the most appropriate form of solution. Okay, fine. From here, I know what cannot be used as an answer. So the policy document says that a concern can be categorized as a formal complaint depending on the person who's resolving the concern. Well, the only part about resolving the concern they have talked about in the last paragraph, where they have told me that you should go to the patient experience team to discuss the most appropriate form of solution. But they have not said that the patient experience team will actually decide what is going to be called a formal complaint. So this meaning actually does not make sense at all. So the person who's resolving the concern, this is not even discussed in the answer option. So I would say this is not even discussed. However, they have done one thing, that is, they have used the word concern, they have used the word resolving, which might make me think that this could be an answer option if I'm just matching words and not really matching meaning, if you know what I mean. Now, for the second answer option, it says how severe and complex the concern is. Very clearly, out of the book here, they have used this word, the severity and the complex, but they've told me that is not what defines whether it is a concern. Not always, no. So this is going to be the wrong answer option because the opposite of this is what is given to us in the answer option. I mean, in the paragraph. So already I know that answer option A is incorrect. The B answer option is also incorrect because of these things. So I know C is going to be the right answer. The way the concern is solved. The way the concern is solved, it is the most appropriate method. What is method? Way of resolution. Resolution means resolving something, solving something, or coming to a solution for something. That may be the influencing factor that might be actually affecting how this particular thing is called a concern, right? So this is going to be the right answer. The way the concern is resolved or solved, or the way you receive your resolution. So this is how you answer this question. Correct answer option C. Now, the question is saying that what should the staff ensure? Ensure means that what should the staff make sure happens? Like this should absolutely happen, right? What should the staff must do or ensure before? So whenever you have any kind of time period words, right? Any kind of, this is what I mean. If you have a time period word, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be the word before. It could be initially. It could also be, let's say, eventually. It could be prior. Usually, when you have these words in your question or in your answer options, what happens is that students often miss these in their question or answer options because these are very small words. But because these are very small and can be easily missed, the meaning of the answer option or the statement that you're reading is actually changed completely. And that is where the problem lies. So you make sure that you have a habit of detecting or identifying time period words or modal verbs as soon as possible, just like I have identified here that it must happen, right? So I can get the meaning in must form as well below. So before you loan the optical devices, the staff has to do something. Make sure that you are paraphrasing the question in your own words. If you don't do it, then you have not understood the question, and that is going to be a problem for you later on. Okay, so the staff has to do something before they give optical devices on loan. What do they have to do? When I read here, starting with the word prior to, it means before. This word prior to is used heavily in your answers for reading, in your listening, in your speaking, as well as in your writing. So make sure you know how to use this word. In your letters also, this is used quite a lot. So before the demonstration or loan, so this is what I'm concerned about, or loan of hazardous optical equipment, and in particular, blah, 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 these kinds of things, right? A risk assessment of radiation hazard must be performed. Must be performed, must happen, ensure, make sure. The same meaning is there, right? Must be performed and documented. Documented is another word that you're going to see a lot in your reading, a lot in your speaking, and in your listening as well. In your listening, you're going to hear this a lot. Documented means that you're basically writing it down and making sure that it is properly written in some written form. Okay, documented, performed. All right, so this is one thing that they have told me has to happen before you actually give the optical equipment. This is the first thing. Maybe there are other things as well that might happen, right? So the risk assessment part is one which needs to happen of radiation hazard. Then they are telling me that when an item of equipment is taken on loan or hired under contract, the new equipment must be routed through the this and that service. So they're not saying before, they're saying that when the process of loaning is happening. But my question is asking about before. So this little thing here tells me that my answer is not going to come from this sentence. Then any new lasers and photography equipment will be used with the approval of the LPA, and the LPA will have ensured that the laser is supplied with the correct PPP and signed off as functioning correctly. Now, this sentence may be a little bit confusing for some people, because if the answer comes from here, they may not recognize it. But read this sentence again. Any new lasers and photography equipment will be used with the approval of the LPA. That means without the LPA's approval, without you getting the LPA approval first, you cannot actually start using the equipment, right? So if you do not obtain the agreement or approval from the LPA first, then you cannot start using this, right? You don't have the permission. Fortunately for us, the question is not about the usage of the equipment. The question is only about the loan. When they start using it, let's say I've loaned the equipment today, but I want to start using it a month later, that's when I need to get the written document, but I only want to ask the question about loaning, right? An LPA will have ensured that the laser is supplied correctly, that it is functioning properly, basically, so that there are no malfunctions. Equipment on loan should not be used until it has been. So again, the question is about use. Equipment, the one equipment that is on loan, it should not be used. This is also use, not before loaning. That's the difference. Until it has been signed off by the laser protection advisor, that is the LPA that they have used here. So there's only essentially one thing that we are doing for risk assessment, that is risk assessment of radiation hazard, which has to happen before we actually loan the equipment. All the other things are happening before you start using them. Use is different than loaning. Okay, so the first question says, first answer option says that document. Okay, that word is very clearly used here, document. Where was the word? Here was the word, right? So if you are that one student who has the habit of unintentionally locating words from the answer option to the paragraph, that ma'am, I saw the word in the answer option, then I remembered very quickly that the word is also there in the paragraph, then please use this superpower of yours for your advantage. If you can locate words, then make sure after locating, you check the meaning. If the meaning is 100% accurate, 100% same, then you want to check whether or not that answer option actually answers the question. So we are doing two things. Number one, we are checking the meaning. That's what you have to do once you locate a similar word, right? Then, if the meaning is correct, if the meaning is correct, 100% the same, then check if it answers the question. Because if it does not answer the question, even if the meaning is correct, it does not have to do anything with the question itself. Okay, so those are the two things that you need to do. But if the meaning is not same, then obviously it's not the answer. You have to stop right there and then. Okay, so document, that means we are writing the different categories of hazardous optical equipment. The word hazardous optical equipment, hazardous optical equipment, this word has been used here, right? Yes, but I'm just matching words here. They have not told me that I need to write down the different categories which are there for hazardous optical equipment. They have told me about the categories here, the lasers class 3A and above. But before you loan equipment of this kind and this kind, you have to do a risk assessment. A risk assessment is not necessarily writing down the categories of these, right? So this does not make sense. Even though they have used the words from here, the meaning does not make sense. Meaning is not there in the paragraph, right? So this is why this is going to be an incorrect answer. Then conduct a risk assessment. So risk assessment is again given here, right? So I'm going to double check if the meaning is correct. A risk conduct basically is me saying do a risk assessment or perform a risk assessment, which is the same word as given here. Do, perform. By the way, these words are also the ones that you can use in your OET writing. If you want somebody to say that, kindly do this particular test, kindly perform this test, so you can use the words perform, do, or conduct in your OET writing for any kind of procedures. You can also use this in your OET speaking as well when you talk to the patient. I am a teacher, so it, even though the video is not about this, this comes very naturally. So these what you should be aware of. Okay, so we can do a risk assessment. We should do a risk assessment. We have to do a risk assessment regarding, regarding means just a fancy way of saying but, sorry, about, a risk assessment about the potential radiation dangers. Potential radiation dangers, the dangers which could actually happen from these, the loan of these hazardous equipments. Hazardous means that there is a risk that might happen. So a risk of radiation hazard, good for us. The definition of radiation hazard is actually this, the potential radiation dangers. This is the exact definition. This is the exact meaning. They have only paraphrased it, but this is the right thing to say because this happens before. So I've checked this. This is happening before. Yes. Before you start do this. Yes. Does it have to happen? Yes. They have also said yes. So all the limits that I could find, all the trick words that I could find in my question, I've identified those questions are actually answered in the statement that I'm finding. So this is actually the right answer. Remember, both of these sentences had words from the paragraph, but only this meaning I found to be 100% correct. And for any answer option here that you do choose, your answer has to be 100% correct. If this is the correct answer, I'm still not going to choose it yet before I eliminate the other answer options also. Now get a written contract for use by the LPA. They're talking about LPA here, here, and here. So if I read these sentences, I should be able to verify whether this information is correct or not. So any new lasers and will be this and that. Whatever they have to do, this is not for loan. This is for use. See, we saw here. So get a written contract for use by the LPA, but you do not need to obtain a contract for use before you even loan the device. That's what the question is about, loaning, right? Not for use. So this part is actually not given in our paragraph anywhere, not given, right? So the correct answer is going to be answer option B. All right, so the question says that we have some guidelines here, and these guidelines give information regarding management of latex allergy patients. So there's a particular kind of allergy that's called latex allergy. And about these patients, how do you manage them? What information do we have about this in the paragraph is what the question wants to know about. There's no particular trick words which I can see here. And the heading of the paragraph also says that management of patients with a suspected latex allergy. So suspected, the word suspected actually means that the allergy is not yet confirmed. We think that this may be an allergy, but this is not yet confirmed. So the word suspected is actually used a lot in your OET writing and in your OET speaking. If you are a nurse, you will talk to your patient and you will say, I believe you have suspected pneumonia, but we will need to conduct further tests to confirm this disease. Or the doctor, but the doctor will perform, a number of tests to confirm this disease. That's what. If you are a doctor, you will say the same thing to the patient. Well, I do believe that you have suspected latex allergy, but we'll need to do a few tests to confirm this diagnosis, right? The same thing is also written in your OET letters. You say that he has been diagnosed with, or not diagnosed with, he has suspected latex allergy or he has suspected pneumonia. However, we would request you to do a formal assessment and confirm this diagnosis. I hope that was helpful. So the word suspected is used here. Now, patients need to be encouraged. So we need to encourage the patients to tell us, disclose means tell us if they have a latex allergy. And how can we encourage them? By actually questioning them about their allergies and the rashes which are related to contact with the rubber. If you touch a rubber of particular kind or any kind of food allergies, then if you have any rashes, if you have any allergies, we need to ask those questions to the patients. So in a way, we are encouraging them to actually give us this information. That's the meaning. Then medical staff should be advised so of the suspected sensitivity. So here they started talking about sensitivity is also a form of me saying allergy because it is not yet confirmed. So I can say suspected sensitivity, right? If it is confirmed, I would go ahead, call it a allergy as well. That's fine. So medical staff should be advised of this and its implications. So the medical staff actually should be aware of the suspected sensitivity. And what does it implicate? It means that what kind of impact it could have, what kind of consequences it could have on the patient, on everyone around, right? This should be clearly documented. See, I told you the word documented will be used again and again. So work on your vocabulary. We have videos for OET reading vocabulary specifically just to improve this. Go ahead and watch those videos in the playlist. Now, this should be clearly documented in the patient's notes. So the patient's case notes, this should be very clearly mentioned that the patient has this allergy and on the alert hazard notification card as well. So these two things have to be done. Number one, documented. Number two, this. I'm just going to write a very small number one and a very small number two to make sure that if I want to search this, I can very clearly find it actually. Okay. Then continuing, if an allergy is confirmed, if you confirm the allergy, if an allergy is confirmed, the patient, the carer, and the ward staff, theaters, and other departments should be advised wherever relevant. So wherever relevant means actually wherever do you think? Do you need to inform the department? Do you need to inform the ward nurse? Do you need to inform the patient? Do you need to inform the patient's home where the carers are? So if that is confirmed, then that is the one thing that you have to do, right? If it is confirmed. So far we were talking about suspecting. Now we have talked about confirming. Then each early notification, early, that means early on, earlier than usual, is essential. It's important so that all areas are prepared to receive the patient into a safe environment. Okay, so you need to inform whoever person is responsible, whichever area is relevant, and it's very important to inform them as soon as possible so that they are prepared to receive the patient into a safe environment so that they can make the necessary arrangements. Okay. Each directorate should have a dedicated link person who is available to guide and advise staff following the identification of patients or staff with a latex allergy. So whenever you have identified patients with an allergy or confirmed or staffed with that allergy, then you need to do these things. Okay. Latex-free equipment is the preferred option when purchasing any new equipment or supplies or departments. Consultation with this may be necessary. Okay, so they've talked, I understand what they are talking about. Now coming to the question, what information do the guidelines give? So overall, what kind of information am I getting? Overall, not just one sentence, overall. So this is what I call a just question actually. Overall, the treatment protocols for once the suspected allergy is confirmed. So when the suspected allergy is confirmed, there is one area they're talking about. When, if an allergy is confirmed, the patient carers and this should be advised, should be informed about it. They should, this is important because they can then receive the patient into a safe environment. But they have not talked about any treatment protocol, treatment procedure, how the patient will be treated. Nowhere actually they have talked about treatment in the entire paragraph. But this is what many students might actually think to be the right answer because this is what usually happens in general life. So from their experience, they'll think, this is the right answer. But actually, this has never been discussed in the paragraph. So your answer only absolutely has to come from the paragraph. So this is wrong because this answer is not given in the paragraph, not even discussed. Then we go to the B answer option. The departments that should be informed. Yeah, they talked about the departments and other departments, theater, ward staff that should be advised, right? Should be informed about these patients first. What did I say? Any kind of time freeze, any kind first, before, prior, right? But did we see anything about that? They talked about early notification, but think about the meaning here. According to this sentence, it means with the question, what kind of information is the paragraph giving? Well, the paragraph is saying giving information about those departments which should be informed first about these patients who have latex allergy. If I go with this meaning, then they are saying that whoever is, when you confirm an allergy, right? Patient carer, ward staff, theater, and any other department, please inform whichever is necessary. They've not yet said you need to inform this department first, that department later. They've not talked about it. Then, early notification. So, informing as soon as possible is very important, but they are not saying to whom you need to inform. Yeah, they are talking about the departments which need to inform first, but here they are talking about the informing part is important as soon as possible, right? So that all areas, not one particular department, all the areas are prepared to receive the patient, which is why the departments that should be first, this is the problem. They have not given information about this. It's not given again. They have used words from the sentence in the paragraph, but now the answer is not correct in terms of meaning. C answer option will obviously be the right answer here. Why? Because A and B, I've found mistakes in those. And even if I can find one word which gives me the wrong meaning in an answer option, that is going to be incorrect. The entire sentence then. Okay. Now, according to this, the entire paragraph gives information about the steps that should be taken if this allergy is identified or suspected. Identified means it is confirmed. If it is suspected, means that we have not yet confirmed this. Yes, I have information about suspected thing here. I have information about confirmed here and here. The steps that you need to take. So one, if if you believe that the patient has an allergy, then this should be informed, that it should be documented in the patient's note and here. Then if you suspect, or sorry, if that allergy is identified or confirmed, then this should be done, and then this should be done. So basically they have talked about the steps. So yes, this is the right answer here. All right. Now for this question, we have a manual again on emergency admissions, and they're saying what must be done. Again, I have a modal verb. Modal verbs can change the meaning of your sentence, and they're very small words, not very lengthy. So you should keep them in mind. So far, what should we keep in mind? Any kind of time framing words, any kind of modal verbs. If you see them in the question or in your answer options, modal verbs. What are modal verbs? Can, could, may, might, should, would. My speed of writing is not as fast as my speed of speaking, apparently. Should, must, need, to, have to, all of these. This is what I mean. Coming back here to the question. So according to the manual, what absolutely has to be done when, not before, not after, but when you're admitting the larger person. I do have to say though, when you're admitting a larger person, it can sometimes be called as before admitting a person if you don't have that categorization separately. So we'll see what kind of categorization we have. But what do we mean by a larger person? Do we mean a person who's overweight? What does it mean? So from the first sentence, actually, it becomes quite clear that in this policy, the term larger person or a patient refers to somebody whose weight distribution is actually, far more than the normal working limits, or, they exceed the safe working limits of a supporting surface. Supporting surface could be anything, a sofa, a chair, a bed, which is supporting you, a table even, okay? And it can impact, it can impact their mobility, that larger person's mobility, and the amount of support that they require. So their weight distribution can affect what kind of bed they have, what kind of support they will need to move around. That's the meaning. Now, for admissions and emergency admissions, because that's all we are talking about here, whenever it is possible, that means it does not always have to happen, right? Must be happening. No, whenever it is possible for you, please do it. So that's optional, really, whenever it is possible. The admitting GP, the person who's actually admitting the patient, or a practitioner, or the ambulance service, either this person or this person should inform the emergency department where the patient is being admitted, or the ward or unit, where the patient is being admitted, that a larger person is actually being admitted. So basically, whenever you are admitting a larger person, whoever is admitting them, nurse, ward, GP, emergency service, whoever is admitting, wherever you are admitting that person, please inform them that a larger person is being admitted. Why? Because the nurse in charge of the admitting area, they are not talking about the doctor in charge, but specifically the nurse in charge of the admitting area. They have not said which admitting area, whichever it could be. Must. So this has to be done. Must then make the appropriate arrangements appropriate for a larger person to obtain the specialist equipment. Equipment is any kind of instruments, those could be, and staff which is required to care for the larger person safely. So this is going back to the same sentence. Support, right? Support is in the form of the staff. Supporting surface is in the form of the specialist equipment part. Good. They are saying the same thing again here, right? Staff they should also be doing this, consider any environmental risk factors, ensuring that, so ensure I told you this is used again and again, ensuring the setting is suitable for the specialist equipment and care provision equipment. So they're saying the same thing. They should also do this. Does not mean that it has to be done absolutely, but they should be doing this as well. Okay, and because they are using also, that means in addition to this, you should also be doing this. Okay, then additionally, one more thing. Oh, by the way, did you know, in your OET writing, you have to use additionally to begin your sentences, not also. Why? Because additionally is a formal linking word, actually. Linkers, okay? Formal linking word. And also is also a linking word, but it is informal. It can be used in your speaking, but OET prefers formal linking words like additionally, therefore, however, which we have seen so far. Just a tip. Coming back here. Additionally, the patient handling assessment or any other kind of appropriate assessment tool must be. So far I've found two things. Number one, this should be done. This should be done. I can also consider this if I did not find anything else. Three things. These also must be completed and actioned on. Actioned on whatever action you need to take based on that assessment tool. That's what they're talking. On admission, that means while admitting the patient, and who should be doing this? By the ward unit nurse. Let me tell you something. The ward or unit nurse, if you're calling them, they're not just one of the nurses which are working in that area. This is what we call the nurse in charge. That is another word of saying. If the nurse is in charge of a ward, you will call her ward nurse. If the nurse is in charge of unit, you will call her the unit nurse. Okay? To ensure, again the word ensure, to make sure, that means it absolutely has to be done, to make sure that the necessary measures, the required measures are in place to safely manage the care of the larger person. So essentially the same thing I have been getting everywhere. Number one, larger person is somebody whose weight is so much so that it can impact what kind of equipment they require, what kind of support they require when moving around. So they are saying that whenever you are admitting such a person, please make sure whoever is admitting, the doctor, the this and that, whoever, please inform the area where you are admitting the person that, listen, this is a larger person. The area could be an emergency department, it could be any other unit or area. Okay. And when you admit them, when you inform them, it is the nurse in charge, not anyone else. It is the nurse who is in charge of that area that has to make the necessary arrangements, the specialist equipment which will be required for the patient, and the staff which may be required for their care with mobility and whatnot, right? And this person is also going to complete an patient handling assessment or any other kind of a assessment tool. Why? Again, to make sure that the necessary measures are in place to safely care for the patient, right? And they would also consider staff. They're not talking about the nurse in charge here. The staff in general should also consider any kind of environmental risk factors. Again, enough about the paragraph. Coming to the question, when you're admitting a larger person, what is necessary, what absolutely have to be done? Informing the unit where the patient is admitted. So far, this is correct, that we have to inform the unit where the patient is being admitted. That unit could be the area, the department, anything, right? Where the patient is by the admitting GP. This is wrong. This is wrong. Try to understand. The GP can inform, okay? Whenever possible, whenever possible. Not that this absolutely must be, has to be done, and it has to be done by the GP, not anyone else. No, listen, first of all, this does not have to be done. This can be done. Can be. That means whenever it is possible. So if it is not possible for me today, it's okay if I'll not inform them. Okay? It's okay. And it's the GP? No. It can be the ambulance service as well who can inform them. So the meaning is incorrect because of this, because I need this to be true and this is not true. This is whenever possible, when possible, not always, not absolutely has. If this is something that has to be done, it should happen with no exceptions, right? With no exceptions. So this is incorrect because of that meaning, because of this part here. I told you modal verbs are very, very helpful. Then answer option B says the staff in charge. So staff in charge, that staff could be anyone in charge. That could be a male, that could be a female, that could be a nurse. Whoever is in charge, that person should be taking appropriate actions to care for the patient. To care for the patient. So far, I don't have any problem with this. The staff in charge could be the nurse in charge, and they could be taking appropriate actions to care for the patient. Yes, because to care for the patient, you must make appropriate arrangements. That includes specialist equipment and ensuring that there is proper staffing available to help that patient. To care for the patient, that's how you do it. So they have used a general term to include the different meaning of special equipment and staff required. So I don't have any issues with answer option B. But if I find an answer option which is even better than answer option B, then I might choose that. Okay. So I'm going to look at C. Staff obtaining special. So what must be done? This should be done. That staff should obtain specialist transfer equipment. I have not heard the word transfer in this paragraph anywhere. I've not used the word transfer here. The specialist equipment word I have used, yes, but I have not said the specialist equipment that I'm talking about, that has to be a transfer equipment. Why could it not be any kind of equipment? Let's say the patient, a larger person is coming for an X-ray. Okay, so for an X-ray, let's assume I am not a healthcare professional, so forgive me if I'm being wrong here with the example. But coming back to the example again, if a larger person has come to us for an X-ray or an MRI, let's say an MRI, right? So if that person is very large, they might not fit in the MRI machine. So they have to obtain specialist equipment for that person, which would accommodate them, right? But it does not mean that MRI is going to be transfer equipment, right? So specialist equipment could refer to n number of equipments. We are not specifically just talking about the transfer equipment for the larger patient, which is why this is wrong, because this is not even discussed, right? This is being too specific. Our paragraph is being general, right? Here, the paragraph was being specific, and here they have used care of the patient to encompass those two things, specialist equipment and the staff required to care for the patient. So our answer option A and C are wrong, and correct answer option is B. whenever you get a question that says is to remind stuff, it does not mean that they're actually trying to remind you, listen, don't forget this or set a reminder for this. No, that is just a very fancy way or another way of saying what is this email, what is this paragraph basically telling you. So that becomes an overall just question from this language only. But here, they're being a little bit different. They have said that what is the purpose of this email? So the details that we have written here, the details do not matter. That's the technique here. If you ever get a question which asks you, what is the purpose of this statement, this paragraph, this essay, whatever it is, they are not interested in the content of that paragraph or statement. That means if you get an answer option which gives you the content of that paragraph in an answer option, then that is directly an incorrect answer. I do not want to know what you have written. I want to know why you have written. What point are you trying to make? The paragraph tells me what you have written. I want to know why. What is the point? After reading this information, how should I interpret this? How is this going to help me or the staff here? What are they going to do after this, right? How is this helpful for them? That's what I would like to know, not what is given in the paragraph. And because students have a habit of matching words from the paragraph, a purpose question they will do incorrectly if they start matching words here. Remember that. Now, we are going to read it with keeping in mind that we are trying to find the purpose. So what can we understand from a sentence actually, not the actual meaning? So they have said that MRI does not use ionizing radiation. I don't know what is an ionizing radiation. I don't need to know what is an ionizing radiation. I just need to know why they have written this information. In situations where it will provide better or similar to CT or X-ray, similar information, MRI may be a safer choice. So the whole point they have said this sentence is to tell you why MRI is better. This is what I have understand, why MRI is better here. This is particularly relevant, important for children and young adults who are at a greater risk from ionizing radiation. So basically from here to here, they have said that, listen, because MRI does not have a particular kind of thing, that is more safe, much better as compared to a CT or an X-ray. And this is much better, especially for children and young adults who actually are at a greater risk of or from ionizing agents. So they have told me why it is better for children and young adults, right? I could understand the meaning to be why it is better in general, but they have also talked about children and this. But remember, my question is about the entire paragraph, not just this paragraph, but this is what I've understood from the paragraph. Then, MRI scanning times are typically much longer than other modalities. Here they were talking about something positive. Now they have talked about, oh, the time that MRI scanning takes actually is longer than any kind of other modalities. Modalities, CTs, X-ray, all of these things, right? So we have heard something negative here. This may mean that some patients will require sedation or anesthesia for MRI. Okay, the risk of sedation for or anesthesia need to be balanced with the potential for a better health outcome with information obtained by MRI. So it's a very lengthy sentence. Let's understand what it is trying to say. First of all, they're telling me that, listen, this is a negative point, and this negative point actually means that patients will need some sort of anesthetic or sedative sedation. Okay, now, anesthetic and sedation are serious things, right? So the risks, whatever risks are associated with sedation and anesthesia, which you require, by the way, why? Because you are doing the MRI thing. Okay, so whatever risks you have, you really need to consider, right? Whether the risks are worth the information you will receive from the MRI. Are they worth it? Let's assume that I have walked about an hour to get a 5 rupee chocolate. It's not worth the price. It's not worth the walk. To spend 5 rupees, I'm walking 1 hour. It does not make sense. However, If I was working 1 hour to get 90% off on a product that cost 1 lakh rupees. So essentially, I'm paying only 10,000 rupees for a product which actually cost 1 lakh, and I have to work just 1 hour for it. It's worth it, right? So I have to balance what is the outcome? Is the outcome really worth the risks of walking for that 1 hour? Similarly, the risks of sedation or anesthesia, are they really worth it? They need to be balanced with the potential for a better health outcome with the information you actually receive from the MRI. So here they are using a very cautious tone. First of all, they told me something negative, but they told me something negative only to make the point about sedation and MRI. And when they made the point about sedation and MRI, they tried to warn me a little bit that, listen, you need to be a little bit cautious. You need to be a little bit more, how can I say the word cautious in another simpler word? Careful. Careful. You need to be a little bit careful when you are thinking of asking your patients to undergo MRI scans, because you need to consider the risks which are there for this and that. Okay. So here they talked about something positive. Here they talked about negative, but they tried to warn me about it. And then they are saying MRI is able to produce detailed 2 and 3 dimensional images of soft tissue, which is a good thing, which makes it a superior modality for imaging in some clinical situations. Aha, something positive we have again. However, this is the formal linking word I was talking about. You can use however in your speaking and in your writing as well. Coming back to the sentence. However, it does not mean just because it is something positive, just because it is far superior than other modalities in some clinical situation, not all, in some particular clinical situations, right? It's a superior modality, does not mean that improved outcomes for patients. So just because it is far better, just because you can see the 2 and 3 dimensional images of the soft tissue, does not mean the treatment will automatically be better for the patient. So even though we are seeing something positive, we are trying to negate that by saying, that's great. For example, somebody saying that, oh, I bought this shirt from Zara or some sort of very expensive brand, does not mean that it makes you look good, or does not mean that it looks good on you, right? Just because it is expensive does not mean it is giving you the outcome that you wanted, just because it is expensive. Similarly, just because it gives you very detailed images does not mean improved outcomes for patients. So again, they are sort of trying to tell me something, warn me here. GPs need to keep in mind. That means this is something they should not avoid. Carefully consider whether any, not just MRI, whether any diagnostic imaging will alter means change the treatment, and the potential for revealing incidental findings. Incidental findings are the findings which you can get, which you did not actually expect to get, but after getting the imaging or after getting the result from the imaging, maybe you found something really, really relevant that could help the patient. So again, they are saying that you need to keep in mind, you need to consider this, you need to balance this, need to be balanced, need to be this. So I'm getting the same meaning here and here again. So these are two areas where they have told me to be a bit more cautious. In other words, careful. In other words, mindful of when we are basically saying that, you should undergo this imaging. That's what they are saying. So I have one paragraph which talks about something positive, but two paragraphs which actually told me to be more cautious, be more mindful. So overall, the entire purpose, if I look at it, by the method of today's voting day, so by the method of democracy here, it is saying that we should be cautious. Just because we have something positive does not mean it will give us the outcome that we want. So you always need to consider whether or not that particular MRI or imaging is actually going to be beneficial for the patient. Is it worth the risks? Is it really needed? Okay, so you need to check that. You need to be balancing that. Okay. Now, I have this question. The purpose of this email is to remind staff about the benefits of using MRI for children. No, that was just one aspect of it. And I told you, when the question is about the entire purpose, you will always get answer options which are only talking about one aspect or one little detail or maybe some detail from the paragraph. Moreover, it was not only good for children, it was also good for young adults. So here also they are telling me something wrong. So it's not just the benefits, it's the cautious. So I'm not happy because it does not make sense for me to talk about. This is only one aspect, which is also incomplete, by the way. Only one aspect, not the entire purpose that I'm looking for. Why MRI is preferred by GPs? Again, GPs are only being discussed in the last paragraph, which it says here in the last sentence. GPs need to keep in mind whether any diagnostic imaging, they do not say at all. See, they have told me that it makes it a superior modality, but they have nowhere mentioned that GPs actually prefer this. This is their preferred choice. Whenever they want to do any imaging test, they automatically think, oh, my favorite, MRI. No, nothing like that. It's not preferred by GPs. First of all, this information is wrong. If it is wrong according to the paragraph, how can it be the entire thing? Again, the point was that we are not matching the detail, but rather we are understanding why the entire thing is written. So the entire paragraph is not actually explaining to me why GPs prefer this, why GPs should prefer this, but rather it is warning the healthcare professionals that listen, whenever you do this, order this MRI, keep these things in mind, right? So why this is preferred? It's not correct. To evaluate, it is reminding the staff to evaluate or to assess or to check or to consider, evaluate, assess, or consider the potential risks. Yes, the potential risks and benefits before choosing an imaging method. Any. So need to keep in mind whether any diagnostic imaging will it change the treatment, the potential for revealing incidental findings. So that's what they are saying, that before you choose any imaging method, please assess the benefits that it will have. Obviously, the benefits, they are referring to the benefits for the patient. That's what I understood from the paragraph. And the potential risk. The potential risk they're talking about are the ones which the imaging device is actually associated with, right? So that's what they have talked about. Okay. So any imaging method. That's why C is going to be the right answer. Because I've found something wrong in the other answer options, it's very easy for me to choose this right answer. If I could find something wrong here, then I would have said, I don't know, I need to see other answer options then. So C is the right answer. All right, so we have the last question here. We have an extract from guidelines. The guidelines are about patient safety alerts. So this is for the patient safety and specifically about airflow meters they're talking about. And the question says that what does this paragraph tell us or mention? You know, it could be a detail also, it could be the overall gist also. What does this tell us about airflow meters? No, airflow meter accidents. So about accidents, what do we come to know and understand? So airflow meters are the ones which are attached to piped medical air outlets. They are primarily word is also used again in your reading a lot and in your listening. Primarily means mainly. That means they could have other uses also, but they are mainly used to drive the administration. So basically to administer nebulized medication. So the medication which has to be given in nebulized form, they are used, airflow meters are used for those piped medical air outlets, right? Typically for short periods, so they are used for short periods to manage respiratory conditions. Typically, usually, most of the time. There could be some instances where they are used for longer periods of time as well, right? Most other uses of, so that means this is the primary use. These are other uses of piped medical air do not require an airflow meter. We don't require it. Okay. However, but due to the proximity, the closeness. This is what we mean. So proximity, what do you see in your proximity? What do you see in your surroundings? So here the proximity, sorry, means the closeness, how closely they are situated in a place. So due to the proximity of the piped medical air and oxygen outlets, this and oxygen outlets at the bedside of the patient, of course, and the similarity that they have in design of flow meters, that means these are very similar to each other in terms of how they look. There is a significant, there is a very good, there is a great risk, significant risk, notable risk, something that you cannot avoid, that patients may be inadvertently means that without the intention of doing this, they did not mean to do this, but by accident, they might be connected to medical air instead of oxygen. So this is what they meant by the accident actually. So this is the kind of accident that happens, that instead of, because of the airflow meters design, which is very similar, and because how closely they are situated to the pipe medical air and the oxygen outlet, we might give the wrong kind of air, not medical air, sorry, medical air we might give to the patient instead of the oxygen, and that might result in an incident, of course. Now, review of the 108 incidents, which are related to airflow meters in the past year indicates that misconnection, rather than giving this, we have given this. How? By connecting the pipe to the wrong cylinder, is often an unconscious error. What do we mean by unconscious? Unconscious state means that I'm not really conscious, I'm not really, my eyes are not open. So unconscious means that, let's say, if I am not even conscious and I'm making the error. So that is something that is happening without my own fault, because I did not mean to do it. If I meant to kill a person, that is a murder. But here we are calling it an accident, we are calling it an error because we did not mean for it to happen. Here also they have used the word inadvertently. Here also they have said it is an unconscious kind of error, right? So it's, and so incidents often, because of this, incidents often a lot of the times go undetected. That means incidents are not even recognized, that, oh, this accident has happened, this problem has happened, even when the other staff respond to deterioration or take over care. Even when another staff notices that, oh, the patient's condition is getting worse, right? Deterioration means getting worse. Deterioration is used in your OET speaking, OET writing, but note it down in your notebook. Or when the other staff takes over care of that particular patient, other staff, they start taking care, they don't even realize that, listen, maybe you are providing medical air to the patient, not the oxygen. They are just not able to recognize it, even if another person comes to look after the patient, even if the patient's health keep getting worse, and that is how it becomes an incident actually. Okay, so they have overall told me how accidents happen, why accidents happen. Okay, so again, the question asked me about what do we get to know about airflow meters accidents. People may not realize they have made a wrong connection. That's absolutely correct according to the paragraph. People may not realize, that is why it is called an unconscious error, an inadvertent connection, because they did not mean. They don't even realize it, they have done it, even when the patient is being looked after by another staff, or when the patient's health is getting worse. So this is actually not wrong, but let me see another options if they phrase it much better than this option. So according to answer option B, staff should take over during such incidents. I told you to keep in mind your modal verbs, didn't I? Staff should do this, take over during such incidents. But they have not said anywhere what should be done, what should not be done. If I look for the word should, this must be done, this should be done, this should be a norm, this should be ideal, nothing like that I'm getting. They're saying when it's not a matter of if they should do it or not, but when they do it, they're still not able to identify it. So they're not saying that the staff should take over during such incidents. No, even when they do take over, there's no benefit. They're not able to identify it. So the meaning is completely wrong. My handwriting is not this bad. It's just the tablet I'm using. So this is wrong because I have found a mistake in this. See, they can be decreased. What can be decreased? Oh, according to the question, accidents. airflow meter accidents can be decreased if administered by healthcare staff, but they have nowhere in the paragraph mentioned how they can be increased, what can be done, what measures can be taken to decrease these accidents. And they have told me when other staff respond to deterioration or take over the care, then also these incidents often go undetected. They go undetected. So, how can they be even decreased if it is administered by healthcare staff? By the way, it has not been mentioned anywhere that they are not administered by healthcare staff generally. So this sentence, this answer option is saying so many things which have nothing to do with the paragraph, with the information that is actually given in the paragraph. So they can be decreased. Nah, I don't have this information, not given only. Just like this information was wrong and not given. So it's clear that my answer option A is going to be the right answer. I want you to understand a few things that when you look at your question, when you look at your paragraph, number one, you should be able to paraphrase what you are reading. Paraphrase basically means whatever you are reading, you are able to rephrase that in your own language. Your own language could be Kannada, your own language could be Hindi, it could be Punjabi. If you're not able to paraphrase in a much simpler language, then you're not able to understand the meaning. That is simple. And if you do not understand the meaning of what is written in front of you, then you are only going to get the wrong answer. If you have gotten the right answer, then the God has been very kind to you. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. Elimination method will not work. Modal verbs will not work if you are not able to rephrase or understand the meaning in simple language. Okay, so get into the habit of reading a paragraph and explaining it in your own language. Remember, when I did this video, I did not read a paragraph more than once. If I needed to confirm something from a particular line, I did do that. I did read that sentence, but I did not read the entire paragraph again. This is to show you that you don't actually need to read the paragraph or keep on reading the paragraph when you're trying to find the answer. No, you should be able to understand the paragraph in simple language by rephrasing it as you go along. If you keep on reading it and you realize, oh, what was the paragraph discussing? I forgot about it. Then you are a passive reader and you need to actively read and understand. Okay. The second thing is that if you're able to paraphrase in simple language, then make sure you do not miss the words which can easily change that meaning. Let's say you have done the effort and you're paraphrasing in simple language, but the paraphrasing is wrong, not because your comprehension is wrong, but because you missed certain words. And what are those words? What could be those words? Well, it could be any kind of modal verbs. It could be any kind of time words or phrases. Because before, after, even if the entire sentence's words are the same as the paragraph, if it answers the question also, but if I change the word before and after, the entire meaning is wrong. The same thing is done with modal verbs. I'm not saying that if your answer option or question contains modal verbs, then that is going to be the wrong answer option. I do not mean that at all. You need to be more careful when you're dealing with these words. You need to check whether this meaning is satisfied or not with the paragraph. Okay. The third thing is always eliminate first. Do not think that by reading the paragraph, I should be able to answer, I should be able to just say this is the right answer. No. The reason why I do not want you to develop that habit is because if you have the wrong habit of trying to find the answer right after reading the paragraph, what will happen? Two things. Number one, if you get a very simple paragraph with very simple language about a topic you understand really well, after reading that paragraph, automatically looking at the answer option, this is the right answer. You will be able to tell that, right? But Moving on to the next question, where the topic is not something very similar to what you have read before. It contains language which is not very easy for you to deal with. And then the answer option, the correct answer option, is also in the language that you may or may not understand. But I guarantee, I 100% guarantee the wrong answer options, because they need to be incorrect, they will contain some obvious mistakes that you will be able to identify. But if you have the habit of looking for the right answer, you will not be able to do that. You will think, oh, it's very difficult, ma'am, because the paragraph's language was so difficult, I was not able to find the right answer. No, find the wrong answer. If you find the wrong answer, you will automatically reach to the right answer. And never choose an answer option before you have gone through all the other answer options. Oftentimes, what happens, students, they have three answer options, uh, but after reading the first answer option, which is very similar to their paragraph, they decide, oh, this is the right answer. Now, when they are reading the answer option B and C, they are completely, absolutely convinced that this is the right answer. They're not even trying to find any mistakes here. No, but they are trying to look for words which are wrong here, not for the meaning. They're not trying to check whether answer option B's meaning is actually not matching the paragraph's meaning. No, they are trying to find something based on which they could say that this is just wrong. That, oh no, ma'am, A answer option is better than B. They're not focused on meaning. They are again focused on words only. The same thing they would do with this. They just come up with any reason to say B and C are wrong. That's why never choose an answer option. Even if you think it could be the right answer, never choose one until unless you have gone through all the options. If you think it could be an answer, what I would suggest you do is, yeah, it could be the right answer because it doesn't have anything, but it could be phrased better in other answer options. So let me go through them first. Then I read them. I find an obvious mistake here. Yeah, this could not be the right answer. I read this. Oh, this is not even discussed in the Bible. This is not. Oh, so the one that I was thinking could be the right answer is actually the right answer. This is how you're supposed to go ahead with it. Okay. Never match words, match meaning. And if you are one who has the ability to actually very easily find words. This is something which is very common over some of my students. So what I would say is, you have the answer options here, right? And you have the paragraph here. After seeing one word here, you realize, oh, the same word I know is mentioned here. So you should come here. You should check the meaning of the sentence here. Meaning, okay? Remember, I'm talking about meaning. So the meaning is this. Now let me check the meaning of this. And then you realize, well, the meaning is different. So even though the word is there, it is actually incorrect based on meaning. Let's say you find the same thing for a second word here. And you see that the meaning is actually correct. The meaning is correct, but it does not mean it answers the question. If the meaning is correct, then you read the question. And then you ask yourself, well, does it even answer the question? For example, if the paragraph talks about the kind of food that I like, it talks about the food item. Okay, here it also talks about the food item here. This is absolutely correct. I like Maggie. It says, you like Maggie. Great, meaning is correct. But the question is not about what I like to eat. The question is about what I like to study. So does this answer the question? No, it does not answer the question. Then it is not going to be the right answer. So this is what you do when you have matching word things. Clearly, you will be able to identify this is wrong, and this is going to be the right answer. Okay. I hope this video was helpful for you. Now, because I am a teacher, I have told you where are some words which you can use for OET writing, your OET speaking, and all that, right? But this video is not for that purpose. This video is to show you the elimination techniques. If you want to learn vocabulary words, improve your OET reading comprehension, then I would suggest you watch other videos which are given in the OET reading vocabulary playlist. There, we do not only focus on the meaning of the words that you can simply find from the internet. No, we also focus on how those words are very often used in your OET speaking and in your OET writing and in your OET listening and reading again. So if you're somebody who's preparing for the exam by yourself, these videos are going to be really helpful for you. If you're somebody who has appeared for the OET reading exam once or twice but have not been able to clear the exam, these elimination technique videos, the videos for vocabulary are extremely helpful for you. They're completely free of charge, no issues there. Okay. I hope you watch these videos. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, please.